Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. We're going back to an author that I've reviewed a lot on this channel, so today I am reviewing How to Tame a Dragon by Lila Mina. This book takes place in the same world as her Temper series. However, and this is a first for me, you do not have to read the other books to understand this one. And it was kind of an ongoing joke when I was reviewing that series, because with every book after book one, the author would always say somewhere in like the synopsis, you can read this as a standalone. And in like every review, I said, no, don't read it as a standalone. Start from the beginning. But this one, yes, you can actually read this one without having read that. It is in the same universe. And I think really one of the only places that I was like, I get that reference, was like they make a casual tossaway reference of an Interpol officer coming to work at the organized crime section of Japan's like police force, and that's it. That's like a one-off that you wouldn't even realize is an Easter egg cameo from that other series. So it's pretty good. And in all honesty, this would probably be, I think, a more accessible way to get into the world as opposed to the Temper Saga. Purely because, comparatively, this is a much more straightforward paranormal romance. Here we have Naomi, who was ostracized from her family shortly after the death of her mother, and she never really understood why she seemed to be suddenly turned on and sent out of the country with her father to go back to her father's native land of Greece. She is biracial and has always felt kind of out of place, but after the death of her grandmother and having a strange vision, she decides to come back both to pay her respects to her grandmother and also to start looking into the death of her mother, because she's pretty sure it's not as cut and clean as a car accident that it was made out to be. So she comes back to start investigating, and as she comes back, she meets a man named Sutaya, who is a hitman for local Yakuza and also a very powerful entity that has been trapped in a human body for a very long time, and he finally is at the end of his servitude. He does this one last job for the Yakuza he hates, and he will free himself again after like 2 centuries of being caught. So they end up meeting, and it's very steamy right off the gate. And basically, without giving too much away, the one-night stand has gigantic implications that they did not intend for. Now, there are a lot of big reveals in this series, a lot of plot twists that, admittedly, if you are a connoisseur of paranormal romance, you probably could see them coming, but they're those kind of twists that even if you know it's coming, what they represent and how they're going to affect the story moving forward is still angsty and tension-filled enough that it doesn't matter if you saw it coming, because the shock of it wasn't really the thing. It's the angst of it that matters, and there is a lot of that. And granted, I was expecting that. This author has a lot of angst in her. It comes out a lot. But like I mentioned before, this book series, because it will be, I think it's at least a duology, if not a trilogy, is going to be a lot simpler to get into than the Temper Saga, because the Temper Saga, 1, has way more intense kink, and 2, it's just kind of more intense overall. A lot more things kind of go wrong, and it's not to say things that don't go wrong this way, but for example, the Temper Saga has, within the first 30 pages, a fisting scene and knife play, and there's some references to low-key, some kind of demon possession, and a lot more references to parental and familial abuse in that series that this book does not have, and I don't think will have, despite, yes, the fact that Naomi was essentially kicked out of Japan by her family. There is more to it than that, and it is not nearly the same exceedingly toxic dynamic that the Temper Saga had. So, all in all, if kind of trigger warnings and intensity is like a struggle for you and you want to get into this world, this book would actually be a better pick pick to kind of like dip your toes in and then go back to that one. I am low-key, maybe low-key hoping for a cameo. It can be small. That's fine. I'm okay with that. It can just be like a Francesco cameo. It's fine. But the scenes in here are still steamy. There is still on-page graphic sex scenes, but it's not the sheer amount of it that is in the other ones, and is not to the sheer intensity of it. And I did very much like them. I can't speak it outright because spoilers, but this book also does have one of my favorite tropes. Love that. Oh, and also we have a bi for bi, or I guess a pan for pan, I think, is their sexual orientations. We have what looks like an MF hetero relationship that is not, and it's great. I also loved the part with Nike at the end. If you know, you know. Great. Thank you, Miss Mina. Very queer. We love it. And obviously, the Temper Saga was queer too. It was poly with all kinds of pairings. And I think, based on some hints in this book and some hints in the synopsis, that this series is going to turn poly. So this series might be in the running for 2023's book that make me wish I was in a Polycule award. Maybe. We'll see. Depends on if I can get to the next book within the end of this year. I do already have the next book. Not quite on my list yet. It's a weird concept. But regardless, overall, there was a lot more love for Japan in this one. Well, I mean, there's a lot of love for Japan in all of these books. They all take place in Japan, mostly. Actually, one of the Temper Saga has parts in Italy. But I did love how it is very much has a lot of love for Japan, but also lets the biracial protagonist be a biracial protagonist. Like, she still has connections to her Grecian roots. And you do get some references to Grecian supernatural beings. I love that. You don't think I know who that woman in the gray dress was, Lila Mina? I was impressed that you brought it out in the first 30 pages. I mean, she always got to bring something out in the first 30 pages. Regardless, I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars. Was low-key expecting to. I really loved the Temper Saga. We'll get to the next book at some point. My review list continues to explode, as always, but it's so much fun. And again, if the super intensity of the Temper Saga with talks of familial abuse and really big, like, blood and knife play and big kink stuff is something you need to work your way up to, this is a good starting point. And I really am intrigued to see how much she builds out this world. I think there could be a lot of fun stuff, big fun stuff, coming down the line. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.